Jessica Sexton. I am the Director of Community at HackerOne, and I am here with you at H1702, which is our biggest live hacking event of the year, with 3 amazing hackers, and we're going to talk to you about how to get started in bug bounties and how you can use bug bounties and HackerOne as a whole to leverage your career in a larger picture. So I'm going to get started with some introductions. Leandro, do you want to start? Tell everyone a little bit about yourself, what your role is full-time, and then what you interact with at HackerOne as well.
My name is Leandro. I'm from Argentina. My nick is none of the above. I'm a security consultant. I'm also a bug bounty hunter. I started when I was way younger, when I was around 13. I was trying to hack an RPG, an online game, and that's when everything started, actually. I started gathering info from underground forums and communities. Well, basically, it was a hobby from my teens. Then I started working as a developer when I was in the university. After a while, I got really bored. I didn't like my job, so I thought maybe I should give security a try. And I started working at Core Security, which is an Argentinian company, and I really liked it. I loved it. I learned most of the stuff that I know today. I learned them there in that company. Well, I went to a live hacking event. Ariel actually invited me in 2018 to a live hacking event in Argentina. That's where I got to know HackerOne and the people working there. Well, I liked it, but I was working a full-time job at the time, so I didn't do much. And then, about a year later, I decided that I couldn't work full-time anymore. I needed more time for my family, so I decided to quit. And I talked with Ariel again. He told me that they were going to open a new sector on HackerOne. It's HackerOne Pentests. Well, I joined them, and I also started doing bug bounties part-time. And that's it.
How many live hacking events have you been to?
I have no idea.
I was trying to think. I think you're
more than 10
since Vancouver. So you've done a lot.
Yeah.
Joel, what about you?
Hi, my name is Joel Noguera. I'm also from Argentina. I have been working professionally in the field at around 7 years, but I actually started when I was also a teenager, like most of us. Security was a hobby, but then at the university I realized it could be a job as well. So my first job was not security related. I was reviewing some scripts on servers, but not that actively hacking. So that's when I met HackerOne, and on my free time I started learning about other researchers' reports on the activity and start submitting my first bugs. And after a few months, I had submitting quite a few reports, and I was climbing on the rankings. So I decided to ask on the same company to move to the pentest area, and I got moved there, and I got my first job as a full-time pentester. After that, I kind of quit bug bounties for 3 years because it was too much work on bounties. That's really hard to balance. And after that, I moved to another company, and then I decided to come back 1.5 years ago, and now I'm doing full-time bounties. We have also started our own company with Leandro to try to also have some other kind of things like pen testing. I also participate in pen testing in HackerOne. We have done quite several pen tests, I think, in the last years. Yeah, so that's basically, yeah.
You stay busy. How many live hacking events have you been to?
I think the first one is the one that Ariel mentioned before in 2017. I got to one, and then I did this 3 years pause, and now I think it has been three or two. Yeah.
That's great. What about you, Douglas?
Yeah, so I'm Douglas Day. I'm the Archangel on HackerOne. 4 years ago, I actually didn't know what HackerOne was, but then I saw Ben Stegapour's talk at B-Sides Portland, so thank you for that, about bug bounty, and I made my HackerOne account later that evening. And now here I am, loosely 4 years later, not only being a hacker on the HackerOne platform, but also running a program on HackerOne. During my day job, I work at Elastic, making your Elasticsearch clusters secure. And so we run a public program on HackerOne. So if you're looking for a good program to check out, just go to hackerone.com/elastic. Would love to get your bugs.
That's a good plug.
It's a great program. Yeah, and that's where I am. This is actually my 12th live hacking event, and so on my wall I've actually got a 4x3 grid of posters, and so I've been waiting for this one for a while because it's gonna just complete the square.
And how many times have you won a Best Team Collaboration Award?
This year will be my I'm hoping this year will be my 7th.
With confidence.
Like law of attraction and make it happen.
We will see on Saturday.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So, Leandro, having a development background, do you feel like that helps you as a hacker?
Yeah, of course. I get to understand when I hack, I usually choose a very specific piece of software, and I try to read the documentation. I read code, and my development background really helps me with that. Then I can do like a mental map of all the attack surface, and I know where to hit the most, you know. So yes, and also my degree in engineering was also important because all the knowledge on low-level protocols and all the base knowledge really helps me to understand more high-level knowledge. Yeah.
And Douglas, you took a different path. You used bug bounty, and through that, you found the Elastic program, and you were a top hacker on that program, right?
That's right.
Then you applied to an open role. Do you feel like having previously been on the other side, it helps you with your full-time job?
Oh, absolutely. I think, well, one, just to give some background on the story, I was the #1 hacker on Elastic's program, and I saw that they had an opening, and I reached out to the program manager, who was Elastic's program manager, and I said, hey, I've submitted a lot of programs submitted a lot of reports to the program. Can you put in a letter of recommendation for me? And then I applied, and yeah, they were able to secure me the role. And I actually didn't know it at the time, but the role was not just a product security role at Elastic, but it was to manage the program, and so it was like a stars collide type of, or planets align type of a moment. But as far as making my full-time job better, coming from bug bounty, I'd say, yeah, it gives me a lot of empathy for the hackers. It lets me know how the way I handle a report will affect whether or not the hacker is going to continue on our program, what makes the program attractive for hackers. So, like, we've increased our bounties a fair amount. We've run promotions. We've sort of gamified it by adding in achievements just to sort of scratch that fun itch that a lot of the hackers are looking for in a good program.
Yeah. Do you think you'll ever do a live hacking event?
I want to, yeah. It's a bit out of my control, but I'm crossing my fingers.
So bug bounty as a whole can be really intimidating, whether you're already in the cybersecurity space or you're starting net new. What advice would all three of you have to give to somebody who's trying to make a transition from a different full-time role into bug bounty?
Well, I think that most people focus on the technical aspect, and I think it's the other way around. It's all mental, in a sense that the people I know that do, I don't know, pen test full time and then try to do bug bounties, I feel like they get frustrated really fast. That's because the type of work that you do during pen test, you mostly give recommendation, and some of the issues don't have actual immediate impact, but they help the company to improve their software, right? And in bug bounties, it's the other way around. You need to prove impact. You don't have other choice. So I have some friends and former coworkers that tried to get into bug bounties, and they failed. They reported, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 vulnerabilities, really, really good reports, but that it was not what the company really wanted. So they get frustrated and they quit. I think the most important thing is perseverance. Keep trying and try to understand what the company behind the bug bounty program really wants, what they give value to, and find your niche. So yeah, it's mainly an issue with how you approach the process, not the technical aspect. I mean, some of these friends that I mentioned are really, really, really good in the technical aspect, but they fail at bug bounties. That's mainly because of that. They get frustrated really fast. They say, oh, okay, I wrote this report and no one paid me for this, so where is all my work? And they don't understand that. So yeah, it's mostly a change of perspective rather than getting new knowledge.
That makes sense. Joel, any advice?
Yes, and something also to add, Leandro said, is that if you are having a full-time job and then trying to do bug bounties the same day, the mental effort you have to do is also harder for the second part of the day, is when you do product bounties at night. And that's why, for example, that when I was trying to do that, I had to quit for 3 years because I was so focused on my main job that I couldn't have the mental strength to at night do the same, but running or trying to win other people to don't get duped or to find things quicker. So it was too much pressure and it's not easy to handle. And another thing is that sometimes people try to start doing bounties while having a job. That's actually what I will recommend, but doing that, it will require a lot of strength to do it. And if you do it the other way around, it's hard when you have a salary and then you decide, okay, I have no more salary, I go to do bounties. And then you have all the pressure and the stress that you need to earn that income for your future. So what I have read that other hackers have done is save money to be able to have you being independent for a long time, so you can afford those coming months and be relaxed and focus on what you know, on how to hack, and not in the pressure of getting that money that will be your salary.
Yeah, well, so I think that those are both really good answers. Thanks, Leandro and Joel. If I were to give an answer, I would say that probably the most important thing when starting out is to understand the target. I think that there's this perception that when you're doing bug bounty hunting, it's a lot of just spamming payloads everywhere and looking for just to get lucky. But I think where I've had the most success is just understanding what the application or target that I'm working on is supposed to be doing, so that I can understand when something is working, when something's strange, or when something's happening that's not supposed to be working. So I've got this mantra when I'm hacking that I call it looking for no's. In that when I'm hacking across an application, I look for places that the app tells me, no, you're not supposed to do this. And it's only because I recognize that, the app I'm not supposed to do this on an application, that I can start looking for ways to do that. So just about an hour ago, I actually found a vulnerability where the documentation was saying a user with, in order to perform X action, a user needs to have Y permission. And I mean, that's the app saying, no, unless you have this permission, you're not supposed to be able to do that action. And so I'm like, okay, let's just test it. And sure enough, it wasn't actually being enforced, and that's a bug. And so a lot of having success is just understanding the application and reading documentation, which isn't glamorous, but it's also fruitful.
Do you feel like to get started, it makes sense to focus on a single program and dive deep into it? Or when you got started, did you kind of hop around?
Yeah, I 100% say you should focus on a single program. In fact, at this live hacking event, at the very beginning on day one, I said I'm going to only hack on this very specific target, and that's all I've spent my time on. And I mean, I'm close to 40 bugs at this point, so it was a good decision.
What about both of you? do you feel like when you start out, or even now, it makes sense to dive deep and get to know a program really, really well? Or do you diversify what programs you look for?
From my perspective, I think I agree with him because it's something that I really like to do. When I don't know where or which program to hack on, I always go back to one or two programs that I have been hacking like for a long period of time. And that helps me a lot because it's more easy to understand the new things that the program has released, the changes. Sometimes you get to know their infrastructure so well because you have been reading the documentation or you have been reporting so many bugs that you start understanding what is supposed to happen on particular infrastructure, what should be exposed, what not, or how their internal workflows work. And that helps you a lot to probably understand the business and report things related to the business, which is not that common. People sometimes try to focus on XSS or SQL injections, but then if you know that the manager shouldn't do that and you can have access to different roles, you can focus on those things and will really give you better results than just looking XSS and throwing payloads everywhere with your tools.
Yeah, I agree. I think that if you try to hack on tons of programs at the same time, you will only scratch the surface and you will probably get duplicates, and that's it. It's really hard because if you only scratch the surface, you will probably find the same things that other people has been finding. So I do the same. I always go back to the same program. I know the infrastructure in and out. I know how their software work, where they are prone to have bugs. So yeah, I think the best thing is to do that, especially for newcomers. For my experience, my friends that are trying to get into bug bounty, when they try to hack horizontally into lots of assets, they can't find much. You need to have like a 0 day on something to find something.
And when you're all of you came from pen test and or in different realms, but with pen test, you have a lot of direct connections with customers, and that requires a lot of communication skills, a lot of professional soft skills. And I think when people get started in bug bounty, sometimes they forget because there's a platform in the middle that you still need to retain that and build a solid relationship with the customers at the end, especially if you're focusing on a singular program. You get to the point where you know that program and that team so well that you build a really strong relationship with them. Do you feel like coming from pen test previously and having some of those skills to bring in, that it helped you?
Yeah, I can start. This actually goes back to what I was saying about getting my role at Elastic. Before being invited to Elastic's program, I was actually the top hacker on the Endgame program before Endgame got acquired at Elastic, and I had through participating in that program, I had built a pretty solid relationship with Elastic's program manager, such that he then invited me, Endgame's program manager, such that when it came time to wanting to add more hackers to Elastic's program, he went ahead and invited me over to the Elastic program, and here I am working at Elastic. So it kind of came full circle. So yeah, I think having a solid relationship with not only the customer but also the HackerOne staff that kind of does the mediation, the triagers, and just having that good rapport goes a long way.
Yeah, and I think that's also related with something that Leandro said before. That is in trying to explain when you're doing pen test, you try to show the complete impact or the business level, how this impacts. And sometimes that's something that the clients will appreciate. So if you report, like we saw in the previous talk, someone reports something and say, I have a privilege escalation, and that's all. But then if you put in the business and you reflect how that will impact the business, probably the clients will also appreciate that because they better understand what's happening. And that's something that you usually do on pen test. You write the report, you explain how it impacts at the business level, and also on a technical level. And that's probably something that in bug bounties is kind of missing, and people just say, okay, I have a privilege escalation, that's all. But then if you show how that privilege escalation can impact the whole business, that's completely another story.
And it'll pay off in the long run. At the end of the day, you know, that's going to make impacts bigger, and your payout's going to be bigger, and that's what's going to help keep you motivated too, especially when you're getting started. But frustrations still happen, especially when you're new. How do you deal with them? Like, how do you get through that mental hurdle of being frustrated when you don't agree with a program's decision, or you don't agree with triage's decision? And it happens to everybody. Andrew, you want to start?
It's really hard. I mean, I still have problems with that. So I think some people when they first start, they have wrong expectations. I think social media plays a role there. You go to Twitter and it's full of tweets of, oh, I found this SQL 20K. Oh, congrats. And it's not like that. That's 1 in 1,000. So people go to H1 thinking that they will become rich overnight. It's not like that. So, and also they take things quite personally. Like when a triager tries to explain them that their bug is not aligned with what the program wants, they take that personally. It requires some effort from the hacker to avoid that. But yeah, that's my recommendation.
Something that has helped me a lot is like I always, when I report something, I just think, okay, I don't give that for granted. It's like, okay, something will happen, and then we will see if it's a valid bug, if it's what the program is looking for, if not a dupe. So sometimes people report critical or something, and then are just counting that they have won that amount of money, or they're expecting a particular amount, or giving for granted that the bug is going to be accepted. And then the frustration is much bigger. So that way of thinking have helped me to not get frustrated so hard. Every time that I have to explain, for example, the bug, because it's going to need more information, I always try to think from the other side and say, okay, why this person is thinking that this is not a bug? How can I explain them that it impacts the business? And also I try to focus, for example, on CVSS to see if I can use those items, confidentiality, availability, and integrity to show them with actually words how that impacts on the bug and the infrastructure.
Well, and that's different. It's different to take your frustrations and prove impact further and have a really cohesive conversation with the customer, with that target program through the report, than just get frustrated at the outcome and kind of wash your hands of it and let it be, or kind of clap back and have a more negative interaction or pull in mediation. That's not really the resolution, but helping the customer understand your perspective will help you in the long run. What kind of programs do you look for? Like when you pick there are a lot of programs on HackerOne. When you pick ones to focus on and really dive deep and build that relationship, what do you look for?
I'll start. Is this out again? So I'll go ahead and start. When I'm looking for a program, I guess I know the types of applications I like to hack on, and it's the applications that have just very obscure and complex permission models. And so if I'm going to hack on a program, I'm not looking for like the star.whatever.com domains, the wild card scopes. I'm not looking for the just very broad programs. I'm looking for ones that have a very large application with a lot of ways to configure and a lot of documentation to read, because oftentimes, the developers might not have even read all the documentation. And so if you're looking at a very, very deep application with complex permissions, there's a very high chance that the developers miss something, because that's like privilege escalations and authorization issues aren't really something you can fix programmatically. It's always going, as long as there are developers writing code, there's going to be missing permissions or incorrectly interpreted documentation, and that's a farm.
That makes sense. And so scope's a big part of it. Do you evaluate response times or bounty tables when you look at a program to focus on?
Yeah, of course. Money first. But yeah, one of the things that I like the most is when you have a direct communication channel with a program manager. Because sometimes you have questions about the software, maybe if something is in scope, if they are really interested in bugs in a specific scope, or if they are willing to provide, for example, a license or source code of some kind, documentation. Also, to add to what he said about the documentation and complex pieces of software, the thing is that that way you avoid duplicates, because most of the time people don't want to set up a complex a scenario, things that maybe takes 2 days to set up the environment. So if you do that, you already have a competitive advantage.
And it's harder to automatize. I mean, if you have to set up an environment, probably people is not running tools against those things, those appliances, and you have a better chance to find something. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so I think we're running down on time, but what was one last piece of advice you'd give to all of the people watching at home about how to get started in bug bounty if they are coming in net new? So assuming that they're more entry level.
So from my point of view, what helped me a lot at the very beginning was to go through the hacktivity in the platform. I think at that time it was like really early for bug bounties, but I read all of them. I went one by one reading what people was reporting, what was being accepted and why not. And that helped me a lot to learn and change that mind from a pen test to something like bug bounties, to know what I should report to show impact and what kind of payloads I could learn and what kind of things, techniques I should go on learning to keep improving. So that's something I really like, I really recommend.
Douglas?
Sure. So just, what I said earlier about just understanding your target and reading the documentation. So many hackers aren't going to bother with it, and it's where I found most of my bugs.
It's worth the effort.
Yeah, and I would like to add that some people think that hacking is hard, like they need to do some kind of certification first or be an expert on certain subject, and it's not like that. If you browse Hacktivity, if you sort by new, you will see that most of the bugs are not super complicated. I mean, you won't see an iOS 0-day with a complicated rob chain and a super exploit. Those are simple bugs, and there are tons of resources online, like Hacker 101, for example, or Pentester Lab. There are tons of resources nowadays to learn about that. Of course, you don't need to learn first and then start looking. You can start looking right away, I think. I don't know. That's from my experience working with people that or training people. They think that they really need to understand the subject completely to start hacking, and you can start hacking right away.
You can learn as you go. Everybody's learning. Everybody in this room is still learning. That's part of collaborating with others and building a good network. So, okay, well, with that, thank you all for watching and for joining us today. I'm going to hand it back to Harley and Ari, and I think that they are going to be giving away some more swag. But if you ever have any questions for any of the panelists, I know that you are all very active on Twitter. If you want to share, we'll make sure that we share their handles in Discord and on Twitch. So, but thank you all for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Jessica.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.